You want freedom? You've got it.
The smell of burnt garlic filled our kitchen as I stood over the stove, watching Rachel check her phone for the 15th time in 10 minutes. She had that look again, the one where she was physically present but mentally somewhere else entirely. Probably with someone else entirely. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "You're going to ruin dinner," she said without looking up from her screen, her manicured fingers dancing across the glass surface with practiced efficiency. "Already did," I replied, scraping the blackened bits from the pan. "Just like everything else around here, apparently." Rachel finally glanced up, her green eyes flashing with that familiar mixture of annoyance and superiority that had become her default expression whenever she looked at me. What's that supposed to mean? I turned off the burner and faced her, noting how she instinctively angled her phone away from my view. 3 years of marriage, and she still thought I was too stupid to notice the obvious signs. The late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the sudden interest in yoga classes that apparently didn't allow visitors. "Nothing, Rachel, just making conversation with my wife." "Don't be sarcastic, Daniel. It doesn't suit you." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what doesn't suit me. Having a wife who treats me like I'm her parole officer every time I ask where she's been." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor with a sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. "Here we go again. The controlling husband routine. I'm 30 years old, Daniel. I don't need to report my every movement to you." "Controlling?" I set down the spatula and really looked at her. Designer jeans that cost more than my monthly car payment, a silk blouse that she'd bought for work but had never worn to the office, makeup applied with the precision of someone who expected to be seen by people who mattered. "When have I ever controlled you?" "You want to know where I am every second of every day. You check my location on your phone. You ask about my friends, my coworkers, my schedule. It's suffocating." I pulled out my phone and held it up, showing her the Find My Friends app. Her little green dot pulsed steadily from our kitchen. "You mean this? The thing you insisted we set up for safety? The same app that shows you exactly where I am right now?" "That's different." "How?" She grabbed her purse from the counter, stuffing her phone inside with more force than necessary. "Because I don't interrogate you about every person you talk to, or every place you go." "Maybe because I actually tell you where I'm going and who I'm with. Crazy concept, I know." Rachel whirled around, her face flushed with anger. "Why do you always have to control everything? I don't have to tell you where I am or who I'm with. I'm not your property, Daniel. I'm not some possession you can track and monitor." The words hung in the air between us like smoke from the burnt dinner. I could see she immediately regretted the venom in her voice, but it was too late. Something shifted in my chest. Not heartbreak, not anger, just a cold, clear understanding. "You're absolutely right," I said quietly, pulling out my phone. "You don't have to tell me anything." I opened the location sharing settings and turned off my sharing with her. Then I turned off the notifications for her location. The little green dot that had been my constant companion for 3 years disappeared from my screen. Rachel watched me with growing alarm. "What are you doing?" "Giving you what you want. Freedom." I slipped my phone back into my pocket. "I won't ask where you're going, who you're with, or when you'll be back. I won't check your location, and I won't share mine with you. Problem solved." "Daniel, I didn't mean—" "No, you were clear. I'm controlling. I'm suffocating, so I'm stopping. Effective immediately, we're just two adults who happen to live in the same house. You want independence? You've got it." She stared at me for a long moment, clearly expecting me to back down, to apologize, to beg her to reconsider. When I didn't, confusion flickered across her features. "Fine," she said finally, but her voice lacked conviction. "Maybe that's better for both of us." "I'm sure it will be." Rachel grabbed her keys from the hook by the door. "I'm going out tonight. Girls' night with Olivia." "Have fun." She paused at the door, waiting for me to ask where they were going, what time she'd be back, whether she needed me to pick her up. When I said nothing, just started scraping the burnt dinner into the trash, she opened the door. "I might be late." "Okay." "Really late." I looked up and smiled, the first genuine smile I'd given her in months. "Rachel, I honestly don't care what time you come home. Enjoy your night." The door slammed behind her hard enough to rattle the windows. I heard her car start in the driveway, the engine revving higher than necessary as she backed out onto the street. Only when the sound faded completely did I allow myself to laugh. For the first time in months, I felt free, and I was going to make the most of it. Kyle Martinez had been my closest friend at the software firm for 2 years, which meant he was also the only person who knew exactly how miserable my marriage had become. When I called him at 9 p.m. on a Friday night, he answered on the second ring. "Please tell me you're calling because you finally grew a spine," he said without preamble. "I need Olivia's number." Rachel's best friend, Olivia? Dude, what are you planning? I was sitting in my home office, laptop open, credit card in hand. Something I should have done a long time ago. Can you get it for me or not? Hold on. I heard typing in the background. Kyle was the kind of guy who kept everyone's contact information organized in spreadsheets, cross-referenced by social media profiles and mutual connections. Got it. But Daniel, whatever you're thinking, I'm not thinking anything crazy. I just want to have a conversation with someone who knows Rachel better than I do. Kyle rattled off the number, then added, "For what it's worth, I think Rachel's been playing games for months. Sarah saw her at that new wine bar downtown last week, definitely not with Olivia." Sarah was Kyle's girlfriend, a paralegal with an eye for detail and a memory like a steel trap. If she said Rachel was somewhere she shouldn't have been, I could take it to the bank. Thanks, Kyle. I owe you one. You owe me a full explanation on Monday. And Daniel, whatever you're planning, make it count. I hung up and dialed Olivia's number. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding surprised. "Daniel, is everything okay? Where's Rachel?" "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Are you free for a drink?" There was a pause. "She said she was having girls' night with you. She told me she was having girls' night with you." The silence stretched between us, heavy with implication. "Murphy's Tavern," Olivia said finally. 20 minutes. Murphy's was the kind of dive bar that served as a confession booth for the professionally frustrated. Dark wood, dim lighting, and a bartender who'd perfected the art of selective hearing. I found Olivia in a corner booth, nursing a glass of red wine and looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. Olivia Chen was everything Rachel pretended to be. Genuinely sophisticated, naturally elegant, and smart enough to see through people's bullshit without making them feel small about it. At 31, she ran the contemporary art division at the city's most prestigious gallery, which meant she dealt with egos and deception as part of her daily routine. "So," she said as I slid into the booth across from her, "want to tell me why my best friend is lying to both of us?" "You first. How long have you known?" Olivia sipped her wine and studied me over the rim of her glass. "About Ethan? 3 months. She couldn't stop talking about him. Her brilliant creative director with his amazing ideas and his incredible understanding of her artistic vision." She made air quotes with obvious distaste. "I told her she was being an idiot, but Rachel doesn't like hearing things she doesn't want to hear." Ethan Morrison. I'd met him at a few company parties. Mid-30s, perfectly styled hair, the kind of guy who wore expensive jeans to work and called everyone buddy, in a way that somehow sounded condescending. That's the one. Rachel thinks she's in love. I think she's having a midlife crisis at 30. I signaled the bartender for a beer. She told me tonight that I was controlling, that she didn't have to tell me where she was going or who she was with. And what did you say? That she was right. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Interesting approach. I turned off location sharing, told her I wouldn't ask where she was going or when she'd be back. She didn't know how to handle it. I bet she didn't. Rachel likes being the victim in her own story. Hard to play that role when you're getting exactly what you asked for. The bartender brought my beer, and I took a long pull before continuing. I'm done being the bad guy in my own marriage, Olivia. If she wants to pretend I'm some controlling monster, fine, but I'm not going to keep playing the part. What did you have in mind? I pulled out my phone and showed her the Expedia confirmation. Paris, tomorrow morning. Back Sunday night. Olivia stared at the screen. You bought a plane ticket to Paris? Just like that? 2 tickets, actually. I met her eyes. Want to help me give Rachel a taste of her own medicine? Daniel, I can't just... It's not what you're thinking. Separate rooms, completely platonic. I just want Rachel to experience what it feels like when someone she cares about disappears without explanation. Olivia was quiet for a long moment, swirling the wine in her glass. She's been my best friend for 8 years. And she's been lying to you for 3 months. That's true. She looked up at me. What makes you think this will work? Because Rachel's never been ignored in her life. She's beautiful, she's charming, and she's used to being the center of attention. The one thing she can't handle is being irrelevant. And you think a weekend in Paris will make her realize what she's losing? I shook my head. I think a weekend in Paris will make her realize that she's not the only one who can play games. The question is whether you're willing to help me prove it. Olivia finished her wine and set the glass down with a soft clink. What time's our flight? The weekend in Paris was perfect in ways I hadn't expected. Not because anything romantic happened between Olivia and me, we were both clear about the boundaries, but because for 48 hours I remembered what it felt like to enjoy someone's company without walking on eggshells. We visited the Louvre, ate at sidewalk cafes, and took exactly one photo together, a selfie in front of the Eiffel Tower at sunset, both of us laughing at something Olivia had said about the tourists around us. I posted it to Instagram with a simple caption. Sometimes the best adventures are the unexpected ones. My phone had been buzzing with messages from Rachel since Saturday morning, but I didn't read them. Every time a notification popped up, I swiped it away without looking. Olivia watched this ritual with growing amusement. "You're really not going to check?" she asked as we sat in the airport waiting for our Sunday evening flight. "What's the point? I know exactly what they say. First confusion, then anger, then panic, then rage, then bargaining. Rachel's emotional range is predictable. She's called me 6 times. Did you answer?" "Once. I told her I was busy and couldn't talk. She asked if I was with you." "What did you say?" Olivia smiled. "I said I was in a place with terrible reception and hung up." When we landed at Logan Airport Sunday night, my phone showed 37 missed calls and 42 unread text messages, all from Rachel. I deleted them without reading and drove Olivia home. "Thank you," I said as she got out of my car, "for everything." "Don't thank me yet. The real show starts tomorrow." Rachel's car was in the driveway when I got home, every light in the house blazing. I found her pacing in the living room, still in the clothes she'd worn Friday night, her hair unwashed and her makeup smeared. "Where the hell have you been?" she demanded the moment I walked through the door. I set my suitcase down and looked at her with mild surprise. "I thought we established that we don't have to tell each other where we're going or who we're with." "That was about checking in every 5 minutes, not disappearing for an entire weekend." "Was it? Because what you said was that you didn't have to tell me where you were going or who you were with. I assumed the same rules applied to both of us." Rachel's face was flushed, her hands shaking slightly. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "I've been worried sick. I thought something happened to you." "Something did happen to me. I had a wonderful weekend." "With who?" I walked past her toward the stairs. "I'm going to shower and go to bed. I have work tomorrow." "Daniel," she grabbed my arm. "I asked you a question." I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then back at her face, and I'm choosing not to answer it, just like you chose not to answer my questions about where you were going Friday night. "That's different." "How?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time in our marriage, Rachel was speechless. "Good night, Rachel." I went upstairs and took the longest, hottest shower of my life. When I came out, she was sitting on our bed, holding her phone. "I saw the photo," she said quietly. "What photo?" "You know what photo. You and Olivia in Paris." I pulled on a t-shirt and climbed into bed. It was a beautiful sunset. "How could you do this to me?" I turned off the bedside lamp and rolled over to face the wall. I learned from the best. The next morning, Rachel was gone when I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "We need to talk. Tonight." I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. At work, Kyle cornered me before I'd even reached my desk. "Dude, you have to tell me everything. Sarah said Rachel showed up at Olivia's apartment building last night and sat in her car for 2 hours. Stalking isn't a good look for her." "So it worked? The Paris thing?" I sat down and opened my laptop. Phase 1 worked perfectly. Rachel's starting to understand what it feels like when someone you care about becomes unpredictable. "Phase 1? What's Phase 2? Tonight, she wants to talk. I'm going to let her." That evening, Rachel was waiting for me in the living room when I got home. She'd showered, done her hair, and put on the blue dress I used to tell her was my favorite. The coffee table was set with wine and cheese, like she was staging a seduction. "Hi," she said softly as I walked in. "Hi. Can we talk, please?" I sat down across from her, noting how she'd positioned herself in the chair that caught the light from the window just right. Even in crisis, Rachel was performing. "I owe you an apology," she began. "I was wrong Friday night. I was angry, and I said things I didn't mean." "Which things didn't you mean?" "About you being controlling, about not having to tell you where I go. I was just frustrated." "Frustrated about what?" She poured herself a glass of wine with hands that weren't quite steady. "Work has been stressful. The new campaign isn't going well, and my boss has been impossible. I was taking it out on you." "Tell me about the campaign?" Rachel blinked, clearly not expecting the question. "What?" "The campaign that's been stressing you out. What's it for?" It's for a restaurant chain. Very complicated branding issues." "Which chain?" You wouldn't know it. It's a small local group. I nodded thoughtfully. And your boss is being impossible how? Just micromanaging everything, questioning my decisions, making me stay late. How late? Daniel, why are you... I'm just trying to understand what's been making my wife so unhappy that she felt the need to disappear Friday night without telling me where she was going. Rachel set down her wine glass and leaned forward. I went to Olivia's. We had dinner and talked about work stuff. Girl talk. Nothing exciting. Funny thing about that, I said, pulling out my phone. Olivia told me she was busy Friday night. Said she had a date. The color drained from Rachel's face. Maybe I got the day wrong? Maybe you did. I stood up. Or maybe you're lying to me the same way you've been lying to me for months. I'm not lying. Rachel, I know about Ethan. The words hit her like a physical blow. She actually recoiled, pressing back into her chair as if she could disappear into the upholstery. I don't know what you're talking about. Ethan Morrison, creative director at your agency, 38 years old, drives a silver BMW, thinks he's God's gift to marketing, the man you've been sleeping with for the past 3 months. Rachel's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. How did you? It doesn't matter how I know. What matters is that you've been lying to me, cheating on me, and then having the nerve to call me controlling when I ask where you've been. She started to cry, not the ugly, honest crying of genuine remorse, but the calculated tears she'd perfected over the years. Daniel, please, it's not what you think. What I think is that my wife has been having an affair and lying about it. Which part am I wrong about? It just happened. We were working late, and he was so understanding about everything I was going through at home. Everything you were going through at home? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You mean being married to someone who loved you and wanted to spend time with you? Yeah, that sounds terrible. You don't understand. You're always so logical, so controlled. Ethan makes me feel alive. Does he make you feel alive when he's telling you about his other girlfriends? Rachel's tears stopped abruptly. What? Did you think you were special, Rachel? Did you think a guy who cheats with married women draws the line at cheating on married women? You're lying. I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo Kyle had taken at a downtown bar 2 nights ago. Ethan Morrison with his arm around a blonde woman who definitely wasn't Rachel. Her name is Jennifer. She works in accounting at your agency. According to my sources, she thinks she's his girlfriend. Rachel stared at the photo, her face cycling through disbelief, recognition, and finally, humiliation. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Daniel. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it. No, we can't. Please. I love you. I know I screwed up, but I love you. I stood up and walked toward the door. You love the idea of me, Rachel. You love having a husband who pays half the bills and doesn't ask too many questions. But you don't love me. That's not true. If it's not true, then why did it take me disappearing for a weekend to make you realize what you had? She had no answer for that. I'm going to stay at Kyle's tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out the logistics. Daniel, wait. But I was already gone. The next morning, I arrived at work to find my boss, Janet Chen, waiting by my desk with a concerned expression. Daniel, can I see you in my office? Janet was in her 50s, with steel gray hair and the kind of no-nonsense demeanor that came from 20 years of managing software engineers. She'd hired me 3 years ago and had always been fair, which made the worry in her eyes particularly unsettling. Someone called yesterday asking about your employment status, she said once we were seated in her office. Wanted to know about your reliability, your work ethic, whether there had been any performance issues. Who called? They said they were from a headhunting firm, claimed you'd applied for a position, and they were doing a background check. But something felt off about it. I felt a cold anger settle in my stomach. What kind of off? The questions were too specific. They wanted to know about your access to client data, whether you'd ever been written up for policy violations, if there had been any complaints from coworkers. That's not standard headhunter stuff. Did you get a name? Morrison Consulting. I looked them up after the call. They don't exist. Morrison. Ethan's last name. The bastard was trying to get me fired. Janet, I need to tell you something. I laid out the whole situation, the affair, the lies, the weekend in Paris that had apparently triggered some kind of corporate warfare. Janet listened without interruption, her expression growing darker with each detail. So, this Ethan character is trying to sabotage your career because you caught him sleeping with your wife? That's about the size of it. Janet was quiet for a moment, drumming her fingers on her desk. You know what, Daniel? I've been in this business for a long time, and I've seen plenty of men try to destroy other men over women. It never ends well for the aggressor. What do you mean? She smiled, and there was something predatory in it. I mean that Ethan Morrison just picked a fight with the wrong company. Our legal department loves cases like this. Harassment, interference with employment, possible industrial espionage if he was fishing for information about our clients. I don't want to make this into a bigger mess than it already is. Too late for that. He made it bigger when he decided to come after your job. Janet picked up her phone. I'm calling our lawyers. And Daniel, take the rest of the day off. Go home, get some sleep. Tomorrow we go on the offensive. I left the office feeling like I'd just been handed a loaded weapon. Ethan thought he was playing chess, but he'd just walked into a war he wasn't equipped to fight. My phone rang as I was driving home. Rachel. Daniel, please don't hang up. What do you want, Rachel? Ethan's been fired. I pulled over to the side of the road. What? His boss called him into the office this morning. Someone reported that he was using company resources to harass employees at other firms. They terminated him immediately. Huh, that's unfortunate. Daniel, did I what? Report a man for using his position to interfere with someone else's employment? No, Rachel, I didn't have to. Apparently Ethan was stupid enough to leave a trail. He thinks you set him up. I don't care what he thinks. He's angry, Daniel, really angry. He came by the house looking for you. That got my attention. When? An hour ago. I told him you weren't here, but he was intense, scary, almost. What did he say? That you'd ruined his life, that he was going to make you pay for it. Rachel's voice was shaking. Daniel, I'm scared. Where are you now? At home. I locked all the doors and set the alarm. Pack a bag and go to your sister's. Don't tell anyone where you're going, not even me. Just disappear for a few days. What about you? I can take care of myself. Daniel, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of this. I never wanted... Rachel, we'll deal with us later. Right now, I need you safe and out of the way. Can you do that? Yes. Good. Go. Now. I hung up and called Kyle. I need a favor, I said when he answered. Name it. How do you feel about a little surveillance work? 2 hours later, Kyle and I were parked across the street from Ethan's apartment building, watching his silver BMW in the parking garage through binoculars. This feels very stalker-ish, Kyle said, adjusting the focus on his binoculars. We're not stalking. We're gathering intelligence. What's the difference? Stalkers are emotionally invested. I'm just trying to stay one step ahead of a guy who's already proven he's willing to play dirty. Fair point. Oh, heads up. Target acquired. Ethan emerged from the building carrying a gym bag and looking like he hadn't slept in days. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive shirt wrinkled. He threw the bag into his car with enough force to dent the trunk. He looks pissed, Kyle observed. Good. Angry people make mistakes. We followed Ethan's BMW through downtown traffic, staying far enough back to avoid detection. He drove like a man with nothing to lose, running yellow lights, cutting off other drivers, generally behaving like the kind of person who gets pulled over by cops having bad days. Hey, where do you think he's going? Kyle asked. Somewhere stupid, hopefully. Ethan's destination turned out to be a dive bar called Mickey's, the kind of place where day drinking was considered a lifestyle choice rather than a problem. We watched him go inside, then waited 5 minutes before following. The bar was dark and mostly empty, with the kind of atmosphere that suggested most of the clientele had given up on life sometime during the Clinton administration. Ethan was at the far end of the bar, already working on what looked like his second whiskey. Kyle and I took a table in the corner where we could watch without being obvious about it. I ordered a beer. Kyle got a Coke since he was driving. Now what? Kyle whispered. Now we wait and see what kind of drunk he is. We didn't have to wait long. Within an hour, Ethan had moved from morose drinking to angry drinking, muttering to himself and occasionally slamming his glass down hard enough to make the bartender nervous. That son of a jerk thinks he's so smart, Ethan said loudly enough for half the bar to hear. Thinks he can destroy my career and get away with it. The bartender, a heavy-set man in his 60s who'd probably seen every type of drunk humanity had to offer, continued polishing glasses without comment. I gave that woman everything, Ethan continued. Listened to her complain about her boring husband, made her feel special, showed her what a real man could do. And this is how she repays me? By running back to him the second things get complicated? A few other patrons had started to pay attention, drawn by the volume of Ethan's voice and the entertainment value of watching someone else's life fall apart in public. You know what I should do? Ethan turned to address the bartender directly. I should go over there right now and show that computer nerd what happens when you mess with the wrong guy. Maybe you should call it a night, the bartender suggested diplomatically. Maybe I should call his wife and tell her what a pathetic loser she married. Maybe I should post those pictures she sent me all over the internet. Maybe I should. Maybe you should shut your mouth before you say something you'll regret. The voice came from behind Ethan. I turned to see a man in his 40s, wearing a construction worker's uniform and the kind of expression that suggested he'd had enough of listening to privileged assholes whine about their problems. Excuse me? Ethan spun around on his bar stool, swaying slightly. You heard me. Nobody wants to listen to you talk about destroying some woman's life because you got fired. Show some class. Class? Ethan laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to lecture me about class? Look around, buddy. This isn't exactly the Harvard Club. The construction worker stood up, and I could see he had at least 6 inches and 50 pounds on Ethan. Last warning, pretty boy. Shut up or leave. Ethan looked around the bar, apparently just realizing that his audience wasn't sympathetic. The other patrons were staring at him with expressions ranging from disgust to outright hostility. Fine, he said, throwing a 20 on the bar. This place is a dump anyway. He stumbled toward the door, and Kyle and I waited a full minute before following him outside. Ethan was leaning against his car, fumbling with his keys and muttering to himself. As we watched from across the street, he dropped the keys twice before finally managing to unlock the door. He's going to harm someone driving like that, Kyle said. Not our problem. But as Ethan pulled out of the parking lot, weaving slightly as he merged into traffic, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was heading somewhere specific, somewhere that involved me. I was right. 20 minutes later, we followed Ethan's BMW into my neighborhood. He drove past my house twice, slowing down each time to peer at the windows before parking 3 houses down. Okay, now I'm officially worried, Kyle said. We watched Ethan sit in his car for 10 minutes, occasionally taking swigs from a flask he'd produced from his jacket pocket. Then he got out and walked toward my house. Should we call the cops? Kyle asked. And tell them what? A drunk guy is walking down a public street? Ethan made it as far as my driveway before apparently thinking better of whatever he'd been planning. He stood there for a moment, swaying slightly, then turned around and walked back to his car. But instead of leaving, he sat there, watching, waiting. This is getting creepy, Kyle said. I pulled out my phone and called the non-emergency police line. I'd like to report a possible drunk driver, I said when the dispatcher answered. Silver BMW, license plate. I read off Ethan's plate number. He's been sitting outside my house for 20 minutes, and I saw him drinking at Mickey's bar earlier. Are you in immediate danger, sir? I don't think so, but he's clearly intoxicated, and he's been making threats against me and my wife. We'll send a patrol car to check it out. The police arrived 15 minutes later, a single patrol car with 2 officers who approached Ethan's BMW with professional caution. We were too far away to hear the conversation, but we could see Ethan gesturing angrily and the officer's body language becoming increasingly stern. After about 10 minutes, one of the officers administered what looked like a field sobriety test. Ethan failed spectacularly, nearly falling over when asked to walk in a straight line. And that's checkmate, I said, as we watched them handcuff Ethan and load him into the back of the patrol car. Kyle was staring at me with something approaching awe. Dude, you just destroyed that guy's entire life in the span of 24 hours. I didn't destroy anything. I just gave him enough rope to hang himself. Still, remind me never to piss you off. As the police car drove away with Ethan in the back seat, I felt a satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. It was the feeling of a problem being solved permanently and completely. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The next morning brought a phone call that changed everything. Daniel, it's Olivia. We need to talk. What's wrong? Not over the phone. Can you meet me for coffee? The place on Newberry Street. An hour later, I found Olivia sitting in the back corner of a trendy cafe, looking uncharacteristically nervous. She'd ordered a latte but hadn't touched it, and her usually perfect composure seemed frayed around the edges. Rachel came to see me last night, she said without preamble as I sat down. I told her to go to her sister's. She did, but first she stopped by my apartment. She was upset. About Ethan getting arrested? Olivia shook her head. About us. About Paris. About what she thinks happened between us. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. What did you tell her? The truth. That nothing happened. That we were just friends helping each other deal with her lies. Olivia finally met my eyes. She didn't believe me. What do you mean she didn't believe you? She thinks we've been having an affair for months. She thinks Paris was just the first time we were careless enough to post evidence. I leaned back in my chair, processing this information. That's ridiculous. Is it? Olivia's voice was quiet, but there was something in her tone that made me look at her more carefully. Daniel, I need to tell you something I should have told you before Paris. The knot in my stomach tightened. What? I've been attracted to you for over a year, since the first time Rachel brought you to my gallery opening. I kept it to myself because you were married, and I valued my friendship with Rachel, but the feelings were real. I stared at her, trying to process this revelation. Olivia? Let me finish. When you asked me to go to Paris, I said yes because I wanted to help you teach Rachel a lesson, but I also said yes because I wanted to spend time with you. Real time, away from her drama and her demands, and her constant need to be the center of attention. But nothing happened between us. No, nothing happened. But something could have happened. We both felt it. She finally picked up her latte, using it as a shield between us. Rachel might be a lot of things, but she's not stupid. She can sense when someone is a threat to her territory. You're not a threat. We're friends. Are we? Olivia's laugh was bitter. Daniel, I've been Rachel's best friend for 8 years, and I spent an entire weekend in Paris with her husband. A weekend that I enjoyed more than any time I've spent with her in months. What does that make me? I didn't have an answer for that. There's more, Olivia continued. Rachel didn't just come to accuse me of sleeping with you. She came to offer me a deal. What kind of deal? She wants me to tell you that Paris was a mistake, that I was drunk and emotional and I took advantage of your anger at her. She wants me to convince you to give your marriage another chance. And in exchange? She'll forgive me for betraying her trust. We can go back to being best friends and she'll never mention Paris again. I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. What did you tell her? I told her I'd think about it. And, have you thought about it? Olivia set down her cup and looked directly at me. I've thought about it, and I've realized something important. I don't want to be Rachel's best friend anymore. I haven't wanted to be her friend for a long time. What are you saying? I'm saying that Rachel is selfish, manipulative, and exhausting. She treats everyone in her life like supporting characters in her personal drama. She cheated on you, lied about it, and then tried to make you feel guilty for catching her. And when that didn't work, she tried to destroy your career through her boyfriend. Olivia, I'm not finished. She came to my apartment last night expecting me to choose her over you, expecting me to lie for her, manipulate you for her, sacrifice my own integrity to help her clean up the mess she made. And the worst part is, she was genuinely surprised when I hesitated. So what are you going to do? Olivia smiled, and for the first time since I'd sat down, she looked like herself again. I'm going to help you finish what we started. What do you mean? Rachel thinks she can manipulate both of us into giving her what she wants. She thinks she can cheat, lie, and scheme her way back into your good graces while keeping me as her loyal sidekick. She's wrong. Olivia, I appreciate everything you've done, but nothing. Rachel made this personal when she tried to use me as a weapon against you. Now it's time to show her what happens when she underestimates the people she claims to care about. That afternoon, Olivia and I met at a small restaurant downtown to plan our next move. It felt surreal, sitting across from my wife's best friend and plotting against the woman we both used to care about. But Rachel had made her choices, and now she was going to live with the consequences. She's staying at her sister's until Thursday, Olivia said, consulting her phone. Jenna's been texting me updates. Apparently Rachel's been calling in sick to work and spending most of her time crying and plotting her comeback. Her comeback? She's convinced that if she can just get you to talk to her, she can explain everything away. The affair, the lies, even Ethan's behavior. She thinks she can make you believe that you're partially responsible for driving her into another man's arms. I shook my head in amazement. Even now, she's trying to make herself the victim. That's Rachel's superpower. She can twist any situation to make herself look sympathetic. Olivia pulled out a small digital recorder and set it on the table between us, which is why we're going to let her do exactly that. What's the recorder for? Insurance. Rachel's going to try to manipulate you into taking her back. She's going to lie, cry, and promise to change. And we're going to capture every word of it. That's not legal. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows it's being recorded, it's perfectly legal, and since you'll be wearing the recorder, you're the consenting party. I stared at the device. It was smaller than a pack of gum, designed to clip inside a shirt pocket and record for hours without detection. What's the end game here, Olivia? What are we trying to accomplish? We're going to give Rachel exactly what she's asking for. a chance to explain herself. And when she inevitably lies, manipulates, and tries to rewrite history, we're going to have proof of who she really is. And then what? Then we're going to play the recording for everyone who matters to her. Her sister, her co-workers, her boss. We're going to let them hear, in her own words, how she justifies cheating on her husband and lying about it. It was a ruthless plan. It was also brilliant. When do we do this? Thursday night. She's planning to come home and stage a big reconciliation scene. Candles, wine, the works. She's going to pour her heart out and beg you to forgive her. How do you know all this? Olivia smiled. Because she asked me to help her plan it. She wants me to convince you to give her a chance, remember? So I told her I'd try to soften you up first. And instead, you're going to help me record her lies. Exactly. Thursday evening, I sat in my living room wearing Olivia's recording device and waiting for my wife to come home. She'd texted me an hour earlier. Coming home tonight. Please don't leave. We need to talk. I'd responded with a simple, okay. Rachel arrived at 7:30, carrying grocery bags and wearing the kind of outfit that suggested she'd spent considerable time planning her appearance. She looked beautiful, vulnerable, and completely artificial. Hi, she said softly, setting the bags on the kitchen counter. Hi. I bought ingredients for dinner. That pasta dish you like. You don't need to cook for me, Rachel. I want to. I want to do things for you. I want to show you that I remember what makes you happy. She moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, opening wine, lighting candles, creating the kind of romantic atmosphere that would have worked on me 6 months ago. Now it just felt like watching a performance. Daniel, I know you're angry, she said as she stirred the sauce. You have every right to be angry. I made terrible choices, and I hurt you in ways I can't even fully understand. Go on. Ethan meant nothing to me. I know that sounds like a cliché, but it's true. He was just an escape, a way to feel something different for a while. Different from what? Rachel turned to face me, her eyes already beginning to glisten with tears. Different from feeling invisible in my own marriage. And there it was. The manipulation Olivia had predicted, right on schedule. Invisible how? You're so self-sufficient, Daniel, so controlled and logical and distant. I felt like I could disappear tomorrow and you'd barely notice as long as the bills got paid and the house stayed clean. So you decided to have an affair. I decided to feel wanted again. Ethan made me feel beautiful, desired, important. He listened when I talked about my dreams, my frustrations, my fears. I listened to you. Do you? Rachel sat down across from me, leaning forward with practiced vulnerability. When's the last time you asked me about my dreams, Daniel? When's the last time you told me I was beautiful without me fishing for the compliment first? The recorder in my pocket captured every word, every calculated pause, every manufactured tear. So this is my fault. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we both made mistakes. I chose the wrong way to deal with feeling disconnected from you, and you chose to shut down instead of fighting for us. I shut down? You disappeared to Paris with my best friend instead of coming home and working through our problems. You turned off location sharing and stopped communicating instead of telling me how my behavior was affecting you. I marveled at her ability to rewrite history in real time. In Rachel's version of events, her affair was a cry for help, and my reaction to discovering it was the real betrayal. What do you want from me, Rachel? I want us to try again. I want us to go to counseling and learn how to communicate better. I want to earn back your trust and rebuild what we had. What if what we had wasn't worth rebuilding? She recoiled as if I'd slapped her. Don't say that. We were happy once. We can be happy again. Were we happy, or were we just comfortable? We were in love. You were in love with the idea of being married. I was in love with the idea of you, but I don't think we were ever in love with each other. Rachel's tears were coming faster now, and for the first time they seemed genuine. That's not true. I love you, Daniel. I know I screwed up, but I love you. You love having a husband. You love having someone to pay half the bills and listen to you complain and make you feel secure. But you don't love me. How can you say that? Because if you loved me, you wouldn't have spent 3 months sleeping with someone else. If you loved me, you wouldn't be sitting here trying to convince me that your affair was somehow my fault. I'm not... Yes, you are. You're telling me that you cheated because I made you feel invisible. You're saying that I should have fought harder to keep you interested. You're making yourself the victim of your own choices. Rachel was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her recalculating her approach. You're right, she said finally. I am making excuses. What I did was wrong, and there's no justification for it. I betrayed your trust, and I'm sorry. Are you sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught? I'm sorry I did it. Really? Because when I first confronted you about Ethan, you didn't seem sorry. You seemed angry that I'd found out. I was scared. I panicked. I said things I didn't mean. Like what? Like blaming you for being controlling, like saying I didn't have to tell you where I was going or who I was with. I was just trying to deflect because I knew I was wrong. The recorder captured it all. The admissions, the contradictions, the careful reconstruction of events to paint herself in the most sympathetic light possible. We talked for 2 more hours, Rachel alternating between tears and seduction, between taking responsibility and subtly shifting blame. She was masterful at it, I had to admit. If I hadn't known what she was doing, I might have been convinced. By the time she finally went upstairs to bed, I had everything I needed. Friday morning, I met Olivia at her gallery to review the recording. We sat in her office, listening to Rachel's voice through small speakers, taking notes on the most damning segments. She's good, Olivia said when we finished. I'll give her that. She almost sounds sincere. Almost. The part where she blames you for making her feel invisible is particularly impressive. She manages to apologize while simultaneously making you responsible for her affair. And the part where she claims she panicked when I confronted her? Classic Rachel. She wasn't panicking when she called you controlling. She was angry that her secret was out. Olivia ejected the memory card from the recorder. This is going to destroy her. Are you okay with that? Olivia was quiet for a moment, staring at the memory card in her palm. 8 years ago, Rachel was the maid of honor at my wedding. She helped me pick out my dress, planned my bachelorette party, held my hand when I was nervous about walking down the aisle. What happened to your marriage? My husband cheated on me with a coworker, just like Rachel and Ethan. And when I found out, when I was devastated and humiliated and didn't know what to do, Rachel was the first person I called. What did she say? She said I deserved better, that I should leave him immediately and never look back. She said that cheating was unforgivable, that it showed a fundamental lack of respect and love. Olivia looked up at me. She helped me file for divorce. She held me while I cried. She told me I was strong and brave for refusing to accept being treated that way. And now? Now she's asking me to help her convince you to forgive her for doing the exact same thing she told me was unforgivable. Olivia's voice was hard. So yes, Daniel, I'm okay with destroying her, because she destroyed herself the moment she decided that the rules she applies to everyone else don't apply to her. We spent the next hour creating a plan. The recording would be edited into a highlight reel, the most damning quotes, the clearest examples of manipulation, the moments where Rachel contradicted herself most obviously. Then we'd share it strategically, starting with the people who mattered most to Rachel's professional and personal life. Her boss first, Olivia said, making notes. Margaret's old-fashioned about marriage and loyalty. She won't appreciate hearing that one of her managers has been having an affair with a subordinate. Ethan's her subordinate? Creative director reports to marketing manager at their agency. Rachel was technically his supervisor. Olivia smiled grimly. Which means she wasn't just cheating on you, she was violating company policy about relationships between supervisors and their direct reports. That could get her fired. That's the idea. Next on the list was Rachel's sister, Jennifer, who'd always seen Rachel as the perfect wife and successful career woman. Then Rachel's college friends, her yoga instructor, her hairdresser, all the people who made up her social support network. By the time we're done, everyone who matters to Rachel will know exactly who she really is. Olivia said, "This feels nuclear." It is nuclear, but Rachel chose to escalate when she tried to manipulate both of us into helping her cover up her mistakes. She made this a war. We're just finishing it. The first email went out Monday morning. I sent the edited recording to Rachel's boss with a simple message. I thought you should know what kind of person you have representing your company. Margaret called me within an hour. Mr. Chen, I've listened to your recording. Is this authentic? Every word. My wife recorded it herself Thursday night. I see. Well, this is illuminating. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. Rachel was fired by noon. The second wave went out Tuesday. Emails to Rachel's sister, her college friends, and her yoga class group chat that Olivia had access to. Each email included a brief explanation and the recording, letting Rachel's own words speak for themselves. By Wednesday, Rachel's phone was ringing constantly. Friends demanding explanations, family members expressing disappointment, former colleagues asking if the rumors were true. Thursday morning, Rachel showed up at my office. I was reviewing code when Janet knocked on my door. Daniel, there's a woman here to see you. Says she's your wife. She seems upset. I found Rachel in the lobby, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her makeup smeared from crying. How could you do this to me? She demanded the moment she saw me. Do what? You know what? The recording, the emails, destroying my reputation with everyone I care about? I looked around the lobby, noting that several of my coworkers were watching with interest. Maybe we should take this outside. No, I want everyone to hear this. I want them to know what kind of man you really are. Go ahead, tell them. Rachel seemed surprised by my calm response. She'd clearly expected me to be embarrassed, to try to shut her up or drag her outside. You recorded me without my permission. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state. I didn't need your permission. You violated my privacy. You violated our marriage vows. I'd say we're even. I apologized. I took responsibility. I begged you to give us another chance. No, you didn't. You spent 2 hours trying to convince me that your affair was partially my fault. You manipulated, you lied, and you tried to rewrite history to make yourself look like the victim. That's not true. I pulled out my phone and played a segment of the recording. Rachel's voice, clear as day, explaining how my emotional distance had driven her into Ethan's arms. The lobby had gone completely quiet. Every person in the room was listening to my wife explain how her infidelity was really a cry for help that I'd failed to hear. You see, I said when the clip ended, even now you can't take full responsibility. Even caught red-handed, you're still trying to make this about what I did wrong. Rachel's face crumpled. I lost my job because of you. My friends won't talk to me. My sister thinks I'm a monster. You've destroyed my entire life. I didn't destroy anything. I just let people hear who you really are in your own words. I made a mistake. One mistake, and you've turned it into a campaign to ruin me. One mistake? I laughed, and there was no warmth in it. Rachel, you had an affair for 3 months. You lied about it for 3 months. You tried to get me fired through your boyfriend. You attempted to manipulate me and Olivia into covering for you. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern of behavior. Olivia. Rachel's voice turned venomous. I should have known she was behind this. She's wanted you from the beginning. Olivia's not behind anything. She just refused to help you lie your way out of the consequences of your own actions. She's in love with you. Maybe she is, but unlike you, she never acted on it while I was married to someone else. Rachel stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the exact instant when she realized she'd lost. Not just the argument, not just our marriage, but everything she'd built her identity around. I hate you, she whispered. I know. I'll make you pay for this. I'll find a way to destroy you the same way you destroyed me. You're welcome to try. But Rachel, you might want to focus on rebuilding your life instead of plotting revenge. You're going to need a new job, new friends, and a new place to live. That's going to take all your energy. Rachel looked around the lobby, suddenly seeming to realize that she just had a complete breakdown in front of my coworkers. Her face flushed red with humiliation. This isn't over, she said. Yes, it is. She turned and walked toward the door, her heels clicking on the marble floor like a countdown timer. At the exit, she paused and looked back at me one last time. You used to be a good man, Daniel. I used to be a doormat. There's a difference. The door closed behind her with a soft whisper of hydraulics. I stood in the lobby for a moment, surrounded by the silence of my coworkers who didn't know what to say or where to look. Well, Janet said finally, that was educational. Sorry for the drama. Don't apologize. That woman just proved everything you told me about her. Janet shook her head. Come on, let's get back to work. I think you've had enough excitement for one day. That evening, I met Olivia at Murphy's Tavern to debrief. She was already at our usual table when I arrived, nursing a glass of red wine and looking satisfied. I heard about the office confrontation, she said as I sat down. Half of downtown probably heard about it. She didn't take it well. I didn't expect her to. Rachel's never faced real consequences for her actions before. She's always been able to charm or manipulate her way out of trouble. What happens now? Now she learns to live with the choices she made. Her reputation is destroyed, her career is over, and everyone who used to enable her behavior knows exactly what she's capable of. I ordered a beer and sat back in the booth. Do you think we went too far? Do you? I considered the question seriously. Rachel had cheated on me, lied about it, tried to manipulate me into forgiving her, and attempted to destroy my career when that didn't work. She'd treated our marriage like a game and acted shocked when I started playing by the same rules. No, I said finally. I don't think we went far enough. Olivia smiled. Good, because I have one more surprise. She pulled out her phone and showed me a text message from Jennifer, Rachel's sister. Thank you for sending me that recording. I had no idea who my sister really was. I'm sorry for what she put you through. Jennifer kicked her out? This morning. Apparently listening to Rachel blame you for her affair was the last straw. Jennifer told her to find somewhere else to stay while she figures out how to be a decent human being. Where is she staying? I have no idea, and I don't care. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the other patrons and listening to the low hum of conversation around us. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely at peace. What are you going to do now? Olivia asked. File for divorce? Sell the house? Start over? And us? I looked at her across the table. Beautiful, intelligent, loyal Olivia, who'd risked an 8-year friendship to help me expose the truth about my wife. I think we should take things slow. See what happens when we're not united by a common enemy. I'd like that. Good. But first, I want to finish what we started. I thought we were finished. I shook my head. There's one more person who needs to hear that recording. Who? I smiled, and there was something cold in it. Ethan Morrison. He's getting out of jail tomorrow, and I think he deserves to know exactly what Rachel really thought of their relationship. Olivia's eyes lit up with understanding. She called him meaningless, said he was just an escape. Among other things, I think Mr. Morrison would be very interested to learn that, while he was risking his career for love, Rachel was telling her husband that he meant nothing to her. You're diabolical. I'm thorough. Rachel wanted to play games with people's lives. Now she gets to live with the consequences when all her victims compare notes. The next morning, I sent the recording to Ethan's personal email with a simple message. Thought you might want to know what Rachel really thinks of you. He called me within an hour. You son of a jerk, he said without preamble. Hello, Ethan. How was jail? You set me up. You orchestrated this whole thing. I didn't orchestrate anything. I just gave you enough rope to hang yourself. The drunk driving, the stalking, the threats, that was all you. She said she loved me. She said a lot of things. Most of them were lies. I lost everything because of her. My job, my reputation, my freedom. Welcome to the club. The only difference is that you chose to get involved with a married woman. I just chose to marry the wrong person. This isn't over. Yes, it is. You and Rachel deserve each other. You're both selfish, manipulative people who destroy everything you touch. The best thing that could happen to both of you is to disappear from everyone else's lives and stop causing damage. I hung up before he could respond. That afternoon, Olivia called me with the final piece of news. Rachel's been trying to reach me all day, she said. Apparently, Ethan showed up at her hotel room this morning. They had a screaming match in the parking lot that ended with hotel security calling the police. Are they both in jail? No, but they're both banned from the hotel. And from what I heard through the grapevine, their fight was loud enough that several people recorded it on their phones. It's already making the rounds on social media. What were they fighting about? Each other. Apparently, Ethan accused Rachel of using him and destroying his life. Rachel accused Ethan of being a pathetic loser who couldn't handle rejection. It got ugly fast. So they've turned on each other. Completely. Rachel's now claiming that Ethan manipulated her into the affair, and Ethan's telling anyone who'll listen that Rachel is a psychopath who seduced him to get ahead at work. Perfect. Let them destroy each other. My thoughts exactly. That evening, I sat in my empty house. Rachel had finally come by to collect her things while I was at work, leaving behind only the furniture we'd bought together and a forwarding address for her lawyer. The silence was profound and peaceful. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. You'll pay for what you've done to me. I deleted it without responding. Rachel could send all the threats she wanted. She had no power left to hurt me, no reputation to destroy, no friends to turn against me, no leverage to use. She was just a bitter, broken woman shouting into the void. 3 weeks later, I ran into Jennifer at the grocery store. Rachel's sister looked older, worn down by the drama her sibling had brought into her life. Daniel, she said, seeming genuinely glad to see me, how are you holding up? Better than expected. How are you? Relieved, if I'm being honest. I love my sister, but living with her these past few weeks... Jennifer shook her head. I never realized how exhausting she could be. Everything was always someone else's fault. Everyone else was always to blame for her problems. Where is she now? She found a studio apartment across town. Got a job waitressing at some chain restaurant. It's not much, but it's honest work. Maybe it'll teach her some humility. Maybe. Daniel, I want you to know that I'm sorry for not seeing who she really was, for not speaking up when I should have. You deserved better. Thank you. That means a lot. Are you dating anyone? I thought about Olivia, about the slow, careful way we were building something real together. I'm figuring it out? Good. You deserve to be happy. 6 months later, the divorce was final. Rachel didn't contest it. She couldn't afford a lawyer, and she knew that any trial would just give me more opportunities to air her dirty laundry in public. She got half of our savings and her car. I got the house, my retirement accounts, and my freedom. Olivia and I had been officially dating for 3 months, taking things slow and building a relationship based on honesty instead of convenience. It was everything my marriage to Rachel had never been: respectful, supportive, genuine. "Do you ever regret it?" Olivia asked one evening as we sat on my back porch watching the sunset. "Regret what?" "The way we handled Rachel. The recording, the emails, the public humiliation. Sometimes I wonder if we went too far." I thought about it seriously. Rachel had lost her job, her friends, her family's respect, and her marriage. She was living in a studio apartment and working for tips, a far cry from the successful, admired woman she'd been a year ago. "No," I said finally. "I don't regret it. Rachel made her choices, and she got exactly what she deserved. She wanted to play games with people's lives, and she learned that some people play back. And if she'd just been honest from the beginning, if she'd come to you and said she was unhappy, that she wanted to work on the marriage or end it cleanly, then we'd probably be divorced anyway, but she'd still have her job and her friends. She'd still have her dignity." I took Olivia's hand. "But that's not who Rachel is. She's someone who lies and cheats and manipulates and then acts surprised when people stop trusting her." "Do you think she's learned anything?" "I think she's learned that actions have consequences. Whether she's learned to take responsibility for those actions." I shrugged. "That's not my problem anymore." A year later, I heard through Kyle that Rachel had quit her waitressing job and moved to another state. Apparently, she'd met someone online, a divorced father of 2 who didn't know about her history. Part of me wondered if she'd learned from her mistakes, if she'd become a better person through suffering. But mostly, I didn't think about her at all. I was too busy being happy with someone who deserved my trust, building a life based on honesty instead of lies, and enjoying the peace that comes from knowing that the people in your life are there because they want to be, not because they're trapped by circumstances or afraid to face the truth. Rachel had taught me an important lesson. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's simply refusing to let someone continue to hurt you and building something better in the space they used to occupy. She'd wanted to control me, manipulate me, and use me as a safety net while she explored other options. Instead, she'd lost everything and given me the freedom to find something real. In the end, that was the best possible outcome for everyone involved.